What's up, YouTube, Kaijudo community? Having opened the case of 6DSI and having uh, on hand everything that I needed to test, the last couple hours have been some insane, vigorous testing. Coming into the release of the set, I was really impressed with Kurigar. I had been trying to play builds with Kurigar and Herald of Infernus, even Foulburn. Of course, Foulburn's totally trash. Had higher hopes for him than I probably should have. Same thing with Herald, being that Herald has to actually kill something. But Kurigar stayed really, really strong for me. And coming in, my initial thing that I was trying to do was this 4-color nature, light, fire, water, dragon beat control thing. So we were looking at like 3 Kurigars with 3 Sprouts, 3 Reapinsos, and then to try and control the field, we were playing some Return to the Soils and Root Traps. So this was sort of the general nature engine I was looking at. And following into that was sort of this Kurigar Andromeda thing, because Andromeda is absolutely amazing. So it's like, alright, we'll play 3 Andromeda, 3 Lyra, 3 Lux, and then I don't know where the hell I put them, but 2 Stormspark Blasts was sort of the idea behind the light lineup there. Fire was pretty simple. We were playing things like Unchained and regular Tatsurion, 2 Infernus the Awakened. There would have been a Billion Degree in here, but we don't have Billion Degree yet, as well as various kill spells like Tornado Flame, Comet Missile, and Heatseeker. And then as far as the water lineup went, all I was playing was 3 Logos, 2 Spy Mission, and a Crystal Memory. And generally that was pretty much how the deck was built. The deck was good, but I just didn't feel like I could control the game well enough with it. I felt like I was just falling too far behind too often, losing to rush, and it just wasn't getting to where I wanted to be. So what I ended up doing was cutting the fire lineup altogether from it and trying to just focus on light, nature, and water. With that, I ended up adding copies of Nyx into the deck, as well as 2 copies of Isol. And the idea behind Isol, of course, once you attack with her, you keep them tapped out. Now, in testing, the problem I had with Isol is, okay, I drop Isol, fine and dandy. But at that point, I can't attack. She doesn't have fast attack. There's no way I can make her fast attack unless I'm playing, like, Hyperspeed, but that's stupid. Hyperspeed's Armored Dragons only. So, again, you're in a position where you have to sit behind Isol for a turn, which makes her really, really slow. Being really slow is a problem, and then your opponent doesn't want to try and attack through you for anything, because they know next turn you're just going to attack something with Isol, and then they're locked out. So, that being said, the effect pretty much became null and void, especially if Isol is alongside Andromeda, where if they're trying to actually attack you, they have to tap multiple creatures. They just sort of sit there and don't attack you, which in a sense is a good thing. I mean, you put Isol on the board, they don't attack you, but you're not really getting use of her effect, so I felt like she was kind of clogging and really wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing, so I ended up cutting her from the deck altogether completely also. Now, one card that I completely ignored coming in, I had tested every super in the set, but I had completely ignored Dracothane. But I decided I'd go ahead and give him a shot, because I was like, okay, I need to control the board better, and I haven't been able to do that with the nature control cards well enough, on top of the fact that being that they send stuff to mana, that's only helping my opponents in this high mana dragon format. So I was like, okay, you know, I can play Bone Blades, I can play Terror Pits, I can play the Gloom Hollows, and I can play Dracothane. So let's test that. And in the end, the build has been refined a little bit, but I've come to what I'm about to show you now, and it is probably the most stupid deck I have ever played. You might see my post up on Kaijudo Dojo of a turn 9 where I'm sitting behind Isol, Andromeda, Dracothane, 2 Lyras, and 5 birds, with 1 original shield and the 2 Andromeda shields left. I've got a couple of cards left in deck, and I'm sitting on like 6 cards in hand. It gets really, really stupid. I found myself between cards like Trial and Error and Andromeda with Logos. I was near decking out way too often for what I wanted, because this is a solid 40 card deck with the high mana cost of a lot of it, I needed the deck to be as consistent as possible, so thus the 40 cards. So, like I said, between some of the little tweaks that's come down, 3 trial and error I really wasn't liking. It was pushing me through the deck too fast, and I needed a little more time so that I could actually let my summoning sickness pass, so that I could make pushes when I wanted to make pushes. So there was just a couple little tweaks like that, and we ended up with a 40-card build that we're looking at now. We start off with Triple Lux, the most amazing of all the Firebirds. If they try and Terror Pit or anything like that, you can just Tribute Lux instead, which is awesome. Then we have 3 copies of Lyra. Lyra is really, really good the turn she hits the field. Afterwards, I felt she was kind of subpar. So I've done a couple things that I'll get to later in the profile that sort of help her become more useful after Solar Flare has resolved. We play 3 copies of Andromeda. This card is absolutely nuts. Probably the best card in the set. You get 2 free shields, and then if they're trying to attack you, and they have more than 1 creature on board, they have to tap a second creature just to get that attack off. They can get around this if they have 1 creature or 3 creatures or something, an odd number. They can always get by with 1 attack that doesn't require something else to tap. But either or, the more creatures they have, the less damage they're going to be able to do, just in the fact that they have to keep tapping extra things to get attacks to go off. Especially if you have like multiple Andromedas on the field, you're sitting behind at least 4 extra shields, and they have to tap 2 extra creatures just to attack with 1, providing that they have 3 creatures. So Andromeda lock gets really, really stupid. Well, it's not really a lock, but you know what I mean. And then the last of the light is 3 copies of Orion. Way back when I had first started testing Andromeda, I had cut Orion from the deck completely. He's made his way back in at first as 2 copies and then all the way back to 3. It's just really, really stupid behind Nyx and Lux, the things you're able to do with Orion. Orion plus ISIL was good, but I wasn't getting that off as often enough. I tend to sit around the 7-8 mana mark and just rely on my birds to keep costs low. So you're not really ever dropping these 2 guys at the same time, which was problematic. So Orion in itself just is 3. To see it as often as possible. If you mana them, who cares? If you're manning Orion or Andromedas, who cares? So long as one Andromeda hits the board, you're going to be in really good shape for the game. Pretty much the same thing said for Orion. And then if Orion dies, you have the potential to hit all sorts of stuff, and it gets really stupid from there. One thing you'll notice that I said was that this is the end of the light lineup. I am not playing Spark Cage. As good as this card seems, I've absolutely hated it. It's felt like a dead draw that is extremely too slow. I draw way too much anyways, and tapping 1 extra creature has been completely irrelevant to me. On to Water, we play 3 copies of Nyx. Originally, I was playing 3 Lux and 2 Nyx. After I cut the ISILs, I bumped this up to 3, just so that I need birds on board as quick as possible. That way, once I draw into dragons, I want to be dropping Lyras by like turn 5 or 6. Like the absolute best games, you're dropping Lyra on turn 6 because you're putting like a third, or like turn 5, where you put a third bird on board and then drop Lyra. If any of those birds is Nyx, then you get to draw and you just start gaining advantage, and it's really stupid from there. In replacement of the second ISIL, besides adding the third Nyx, I've added 1 copy of Dragon of Reflections. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Shield Blasts in the deck. So if I have 1 in hand, especially if it's a kill spell from the Darkness lineup that we're about to get to, I can always take a Terror Pit that's sitting in my hand and put it into my shields as added protection, while then getting something random that I don't know is sort of like a free draw for my shield in my hand. I had started to test 2 of this, but I didn't like it. I think 1 as a tech is actually a really good number for this particular build and the way it works. As for draw, we play 3 Logos, 2 Trial and Error. Like I said before, I think 3 was way too many. I sped through the deck too fast. You almost wouldn't think that's possible, but it actually is. And then to finish off blue, 3 copies of Bottle of Wishes. Bottle of Wishes hits absolutely every card in the deck. You know, if they hit it in shields or if I activate it, I shuffle the deck, and whatever comes off the top of the deck goes into the field. 100% of the time, which makes it absolutely stupid. I did have one time that I Bottle of Wished into Bottle of Wishes, which was pretty funny. But Bottle of Wishes has hit me extra birds, I've hit Andromedas, I've hit Orions, I've hit Dracothanes, I've hit draw spells, I've hit kill spells. It's just been really, 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 really nutty. Just that every time this card goes off, you get something. And I really, really like that about it. On to Darkness. The most recent and final change to the deck was adding 2 copies of Umbra. This is how I've opted to make Lyra a little bit of a better choice. After Solar Flare resolves and she's sitting there, she's still just a 6,000 double breaker, which is good. But if you're playing in something that's using a lot of big dragons also, they're going to have stuff a lot bigger than 6,000. It's going to be problematic to you. So you can make that Lyra. You're just like, okay, well, I'll draw. I'll drop Umbra. You know, and then in battle, swing Lyra into your whatever big guys out there and suicide that way. So that's really nice, and that actually jumps the bird count up to 8 in the deck. So I have birds really fast at all times, usually in multiples of 2 or 3. It starts really driving down my costs and making the deck extremely fast. We play 3 copies of Gloomhollow. One thing that was pointed out in Dojo in conversation earlier today, somebody said, I think that Gloomhollow is going to see a lot less play because it's sort of irrelevant because of all the big dragons that's going to be in the meta now. And they're like, well, you know, okay, so Scared Orbital, Gloomhollow is bad against dragons. Well, what's dragons bad against? Rush. What's a good rush? Sabertooth. What's Sabertooth weak to? Gloomhollow. So we actually have like this seemingly well-established triangle in the game right now. You know, Gloomhollow is strong against Sabertooth, Sabertooth strong against dragons, and dragons are strong against Gloomhollow. So I figured putting Gloomhollow into dragons is helping me combat Sabertooth and Rush against me. So I'm sort of breaking that triangle and using it to my advantage by adding Dark into the deck. We play 2 copies of Dracothane. Where Dracothane gets really stupid is all of our birds are really weak, and quite frankly, the biggest scare that I have playing this deck is Barrage. I can see, like, Fire Rush, Dracon decks playing 3 copies of Barrage simply because it will get rid of every freaking bird that we play. So as such, whenever Dracothane comes to the board, I revive 2 of my birds. Probably Lux more often than not, just so that I have that extra protection. But whatever's available to me, I can revive. I can also revive Gloomhollows, which is really nice. And then to finish off Dark, we play a 9 line of kill spells. We play the 3 Bone Blades for, you know, opposing birds and rush decks and whatever. 3 Devouring Smog. It's pretty much just an extra Terror Pit, but they get to choose. If they hit this, they have something untapped, it dies. You know, if they're only sitting behind 1 creature, or just any number of things, it's still a free kill. You can't beat it. And then finally is the 3 copies of Terror Pit. So like I said, this is a 40-card deck. The mana curve technically sits at 5.25, but when you're sitting behind free things off Bottle of Wishes, you have multiple birds on where you're dropping. Like I had one game I had 5 birds on board, and I dropped an Andromeda for 4 mana, and it was absolutely stupid. So that's the build as it is right now. This is probably the longest deck profile build ever, but I felt that it was necessary to sort of discuss where the deck came from to get to where it is now. So let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.